Use your powers for evil.
Your evil is mine.
To Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, and of course, with me in the TARDIS, my partner in time as always, Jesse Jackson.
Yes. So my question is, am I the Aldrich of this podcast?
You mean the Adric?
Adric, yes.
Yeah, no L. So,
yeah, no L. Adric, am I the Adric of the podcast, or am I more like a Jamie?
I would say you are a river song.
Ah, ooh, I like that.
Yeah, so there you go.
Very nice.
Yeah, because I think we're very much equals.
Well, thank you, Charles. I appreciate that.
And if not, if nothing else, you probably fly the TARDIS far better than me. So.
I don't know about that, but I am excited to be talking Doctor Who with you again as we go through the long, hot dog days of summer / no Doctor Who.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, so let's get started without any further ado. And if you would, we're going to talk, this is episode 91. Welcome, everybody. We're going to talk about, of course, the Keeper of Traken. And this was the 6th serial from season 18 in 1981. Tom Baker's penultimate story, for those of you who love the word penultimate, and written by Johnny Byrne. No, not that John Byrne from Marvel Comics and other DC Comics and other comics-related material. Directed by John Black, and this is kind of a very important one as far as I'm concerned, because this was the story that got me hooked officially on Doctor Who.
Really?
Really. Especially because of the cliffhanger ending in the story, which made me go WTF before WTF was even invented.
Yes.
Back in the 80s. So as I was watching Doctor Who on PBS on a Saturday afternoon, just bored, flipping channels, looking for something to watch, I had seen Doctor Who before with the story The Seeds of Doom, which is another stitched together, and I thought was just weird enough to catch my interest, and then of course with the ending had me like, okay, I have to see what happens next week with Logopolis. So yeah, this is what got me hooked, and so I'm very excited to share this with you, Jesse.
Well, that's very cool. I know Davison is your doctor, but that's kind of neat. This was your gateway entrance to the Doctor. I can see why it was. It's it's a good episode. There are sometimes I have to forgive the time period and such, but overall, I was really happy with this one. And as we go through this theme of regenerations and kind of transitions, I was excited, and I was glad to see this. And once again, you see why Tom Baker is beloved.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because here he is at the end of his run, pretty much.
Yeah.
And there's still glimpses of the Doctor we know and love, of course.
Yes.
And he's obviously a much more older Doctor than like when we saw him in when we did our Key to Time recap,
right?
And it's pretty much symbolic that his colors are pretty much unified. Like on his scarf,
Yes.
it's that kind of burgundy and like kind of dark purple scarf, but instead of like that multicolored scarf that we know over the years, Tom Baker's Doctor in his final season in his 7th season gets kind of more of a unified look, like he's essentially got himself together.
Yeah, and had he always had question marks on his collar?
No, this was something that John Nathan Turner, the new showrunner, because this was John Nathan Turner's first season as showrunner, and he stayed with the show until its abrupt cancellation in 1989 with the Sylvester McCoy era.
Okay.
So he was like, apparently John Nathan Turner thought it would be cool to have the Doctor have question marks on his lapel, which stuck around through the Peter Davison and the Colin Baker eras.
Nice.
And Sylvester McCoy's, if you count his pullover, which is filled with question marks. So that was just apparently his John Nathan Turner's like mark on the series, if you pardon the pun.
Yeah, it's almost like a monogram that you have on your collar or on your a pocket.
Right.
And so instead the little lapels were kind of the sleeves were nice. It's interesting.
Well, you have to also figure, well, hey, there was the big red S in a pentagram shield, and the bat in a yellow circle was already taken. So
exactly, there you were. Yes.
So he went with a question mark, although he probably has to give a little kickback to the Riddler, I'm guessing.
Maybe so.
For trademark infringement. So this is a pretty notable story. It's got the return of Geoffrey Beevers. Well, I shouldn't say the return, but the return of the second Master, this time played by Geoffrey Beevers, who is also the husband of former Third Doctor companion Liz Shaw, played by Carolyn John, who is sadly no longer with us, but Geoffrey Beevers still is. So it's great to have him here. And it also introduces Anthony Ainley as the third Master at the very end of the episode. And so that was a big deal. And it also, I just want to real quick, also introduces Sarah Sutton, notable Fifth Doctor companion, as Nyssa.
So I have to confess,
yes,
I'm watching the series, and I go, this actor, he's been on Doctor Who before.
Yes.
So, and it wasn't till afterwards I go, in a timey-wimey way, no, he hadn't been on there before. You're recognizing him because you've seen later episodes and you recognize who he was,
right?
Who he becomes. So
just thought it was.
When they saw the guy behind the box, the panel, like, okay, well, that's probably the Master since this is a Master trilogy. But it didn't throw me off at all, and I did not understand till the, big reveal at the end when I do think it's a little hand-wavy, Gallifreyan science that, I'm out of regenerations, but I can take over a body. But we'll worry about that later.
Well, remember, the Master always finds a way.
Yes,
as
he
we
does.
know.
Yes.
Always finds a way to survive. He's a survivor, or she.
That's right.
Is a survivor. Okay, so some other cast members I want to mention. Let's see. Dennis Carey, who played the Keeper in this story. He played Professor Chronitis in Shada. Which was the unfinished Tom Baker story. And he was a very major character in that, so I just want to mention him. He also played an old man in Time Lash, which was a Colin Baker story. And Margot Vandenberg, who plays Keturah, who is the older woman with the cane. She played Kamika in the William Hartnell story, The Aztecs. And she was this Aztec woman that the First Doctor kind of sort of falls in love with a little bit. There's a little bit of romance there. if you remember us talking about the Aztecs, Jesse.
I do, and this is the reason why I didn't think anything was unusual about me recognizing an actor, because I do know that sometimes they, repeat things.
Exactly. And then John Woodnutt, who plays Saren, who is the person that ends up going, or I'm sorry, no, he's kind of I think he's the one with the Zygons and Tom Baker's story. So I wanted to mention him. And then Robin Soanes, who plays Luvic, the guy who ends up becoming the Keeper at the very end of the story, he plays a character called Chronolock Guy in a Peter Capaldi story, Face the Raven.
I love when they bring back old characters from the previous time. It just is always, one of the beauties of this show, as we've talked about a lot, is the continuity. That this has been plus 50 years of Doctor Who, and in a lot of ways it's the same show. It's a different show, but it's the same show. So anytime we can bring back an actor from the past, even if it's in a new role, I find it very happy. Makes me happy.
Well, good. All right, so let's move on before Skype decides to try to ambush us yet again.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's move on to our first topic, and keep on trekking. Keep on trucking.
Very nice.
So you might appreciate that reference being from the 70s. I just went with a pun that time. So keep on trucking.
Yes.
This, of course, is the Doctor, the Keeper, and I want to talk about Tremos in this segment. So the Doctor, who, like, as we've talked about him being toward the end of his fourth incarnation, and he's confronted in the TARDIS by the Keeper, who is another majorly powerful entity, kind of like the White Guardian in the Key to Time. I definitely got later after I'd seen this story and went back and watched the Key to Time. I definitely kind of got a similar vibe between the two characters.
I agree.
And so the Doctor has just arrived back in End Space, which was like the normal space from a parallel universe where he picked up Adric and brought him with him into the normal universe. And they're confronted by the Keeper, who's looking for the Doctor's help. And the Keeper explains that, hey, he's supposed to pass on his title soon to Tremos, who is like the head consul on the planet Traken, Nyssa's home planet, and he's very popular, and he's a very well-respected scientist. But apparently there is evil going on Traken in the form of Melkur, and so I want to kind of get your take on the Doctor and Tremos's relationship. They strike up a very quick friendship and partnership in this story, and what you thought of the Keeper as a character.
So I thought it was a little strange. All of a sudden we immediately bond together. I thought it was a little bit of a stretch, but they're kind of
like science bros, kind of like Iron Man and the Hulk in the Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Where they kind of have that like bond, like, hey, you're a science bro, I'm a science bro.
Yeah, I just thought it was a little weird how quickly they bonded. But once again, I took this as a hand wave because we got to get to the story that's going on, for the Doctor to get it. I do think it's a good example of the few Tom Baker episodes I've seen. This Doctor doesn't want to appear surprised. Like everything just kind of, oh yeah, of course.
He just rolls with it. He just rolls with it.
And he won't admit, even if he's confused or he doesn't know, he just pushes it off and well, of course I know what's going on. And so I did love that interaction between them. It was a lot of fun. And so I don't, like I said, I think it's a little bit easy that they bonded so quickly, but
Well, it gave the Doctor an ally.
Yes.
Which he definitely needed. He needed somebody that had connections.
Right.
Inside the Traken High Council.
Yeah.
So that he could move about the place. I think.
And a little bit of my concern is, why did he need to go to visit this place? There was kind of,
Well, the Keeper asked him for help.
Yeah, but this new guy out of nowhere just comes in and asks for help. Like I said, that was my forgiveness of the time period of the stories. I just think there was a big gap in logic there.
They did. It seemed like the Doctor at least heard of the Keeper before. He, like when he introduced himself, he seemed like, oh yeah, okay. Even though I've never visited Traken, I've heard of you.
And I think he made a point about he's always wanted to visit Traken, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they just basically, like he makes a comment about hey. Everybody's just really nice to each other in Traken, which is why I've never gone there because hey, there's no evil.
Yes.
So it kind of makes sense so maybe he's heard about Traken and knows about the Keeper through secondhand.
Mm-hmm.
But even though he's never actually visited the place before.
Fair enough, but I wasn't impressed.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But okay, so the whole concept of the Keeper, though, this figure that helps keep Traken essentially functioning as a planet, and who essentially has to, every so often the Keeper dies, has to be replaced by another Keeper, to basically keep the power going, and the flame, as we see.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a gas flame, pretty much,
Yeah.
and so and all of this ends up turning into the reason why the Master is there to try to use that power of the Keeper.
So I got the feeling that the Keeper kind of stays in that glass cage kind of, and it doesn't seem like they have a regular life. They just spend, however long this is, just being quote unquote the Keeper, and
Right.
and it seems like a bad gig, Charles.
Well, you do have an entire planet to take care of.
I understand. I'm just saying.
So maybe it's just like hey, at the moment, he's just focused on this, where he is.
Right.
But maybe like you've got an entire planet that kind of keeps you busy. Maybe if you're in charge of an entire planet.
Absolutely, it could be.
I don't know, but
okay.
So Tremas, we talked about because Anthony Ainley plays this character. So I want to get your take because Tremas is a very nice person, nice character. He's obviously a loving father to Nyssa.
Yes.
And did it seem odd to see Anthony Ainley in this role to you?
No, because I didn't connect that he later plays the Master. So
okay.
it seemed like
So the disguise worked essentially.
Yeah, it worked for me fine. I did not connect the two. I thought it was nice. I did think, going back to my earlier point, I thought he played pretty well. I don't want to be Keeper because it's too big of a sacrifice. I liked his daughter. I liked the interaction between him and his daughter. And I like
Cassia, his wife, essentially Nyssa's stepmom. We don't know exactly what happened to Nyssa's mom.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, essentially you have Cassia, who's like the evil, wicked stepmother.
Yes, she is.
And who ends up falling under the Master Melker's spell, and used. So and Cassia is pretty quick to throw her husband. Now, obviously, a lot of this is the Master's influence.
Yes.
But she's pretty quick to throw her, presumably the man she loves, under the bus, and accuse him of being a traitor and whatnot. So I guess maybe we should also talk about what you thought about Cassia.
I thought she was okay as a villain.
Right.
I didn't
Well, she's more of a slave, really.
Yeah.
She's a henchman, a henchwoman, essentially.
And I think that's could be another flaw with the story is, she doesn't, there isn't a strong motivation. You always the best stories are when you, while you may not like the villain, you understand their purpose and motivation. Yeah, and so this one was a little. I did like the really bad contacts of her eyes. That was so
well, to create that glowing effect.
Yeah, it was such bad special effects that it was good, if that makes sense, right? You just embrace the badness of it.
Yeah, obviously the technology has improved a little bit with CGI.
Yes, but I think they, the costuming was really beautiful. In fact, one of the making of that I read on the disc, they talked about how beautiful, the costume was, and it doesn't even come across everything on the thing. This was a very nice world. In other words, I thought they really built a nice alien world, and the people back and forth.
Created a new culture and entirely a new society, essentially.
Yeah.
Fictional.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the costuming was just superb in this one. You had these great velvet costumes with the big poofy sleeves.
Yes.
And it looked a little bit medieval.
Right.
But also a little bit alien, like not exactly like anything you'd really see.
Yeah.
A little bit, almost a little bit fairy tale.
I totally agree. It was a really wonderful fit, and so.
Yeah. And you had Melker, the statue design,
which I thought was actually pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, especially this is like again, this is 1981, and they have a very kind of like almost like a postmodern look for Melker, which I thought was it's very striking. It doesn't look like it looks like somebody actually put a little artistic design into it.
Yeah, and the idea that Cassie is taking care of this statue, and she's quote unquote praying to it and talking to it,
right.
and being manipulated was a nice story point, and it kind of like I said, once we got into the story, I was really intrigued by her, and it's an often told tale, right, where someone gets distracted or taken down a bad path because of putting faith in the wrong false idol, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, it just seemed like maybe Cassia was the only child, and Melker was her only friend.
Yes.
This statue that she could just kind of sort of talk to and imagine actually could talk. When she's actually surprised when he can actually talk to her.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, and the master just corrupts that belief system in her.
Yes.
That faith that Cassia puts into him, not knowing who he really is.
Totally agree.
That was great. All right, so let's move on to a second topic. The kids are all right.
Okay.
Which is a Who classic.
Yes.
The kids are all right. So I thought I'd throw a little classic rock reference there for you.
Thank you.
This is Adric and Nyssa I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Because we do get the introduction of Nyssa, and we also, this is one of your few exposures to Adric, and it's Adric with a different doctor. It's not with a fifth doctor that you've seen before.
Right.
So I want to get your take on what you thought of Adric, because this is like shortly after he has boarded the TARDIS. It's like 2 stories in, and into his run, and what you thought of his relationship with the fourth Doctor.
So, on a side note, just letting you know, my local PBS station on Saturday night this week played the follow-up after Adric's death, Jetstream or something.
Oh, no, you mean time flight.
Yeah, time flight. I knew it was something airplane-ish.
Yeah, time
and I actually started watching it just to see which episode it was, and I went, oh, I'm going to save this and watch it later. So we may just do a side 5-minute discussion in a few weeks after I watch this, just to talk about it, because it was interesting, because we're talking about, you know...
Well, you had seen his death in Earthshock.
Right, so this was kind of interesting to watch, because this is the famous, we could go back in time to change it, which was very interesting. I was like, wow, what great timing, because I'm watching this early. I liked him with Baker a lot. This fourth Doctor, the Doctor seemed to find him cute, as in, oh, look what a very sharp puppy you are. You can do nice little tricks. You're oh, how cute you are.
He's got kind of like an outer space Oliver Twist thing going.
Yes, he does. I liked the banter between him and the Doctor.
Right.
I've actually, there's a couple of fun quotes that when we get to quotes, they're back and forth, I thought were good. It was not to be... This is not a sexist thing, but it's a change of pace thing. I always think it's interesting when a male doctor is interacting with a male companion, because we don't get that often. We normally get a male doctor and a female companion, and that's just the dynamics of the show. Not complaining, it's just what it is. And to have this difference was really cool, because I don't see that a lot.
Right. It was like a refreshing change of pace, is what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely. So
I tend to agree. I think Adric as a companion works better with the fourth Doctor than he did with the fifth Doctor, because once Tegan shows up, there's all this arguing going on in the TARDIS, and because the Adric and Tegan often butt heads.
Okay.
As companions, because Adric occasionally is written as a little bit sexist, and Tegan is a bit obviously feminist.
Okay.
So those two obviously have those clash of egos. But here, during the fourth Doctor, it was just him and the fourth Doctor. They're just kind of bantering back and forth, almost like the Doctor and Romana did.
Yes.
So it's a completely different dynamic with the fourth Doctor and Adric, and like Adric would say something that kind of would, like whenever like Adric would criticize, say he doesn't make sense.
Yes. And,
the fourth Doctor would get kind of offended, and then Adric just kind of smiles innocently and is like, oh, of course it's lovely or whatever. You're just, just goes along with it.
Absolutely. And
just kind of placate the Doctor a little bit.
And it's a fun interaction, and it seems, like I said, it does seem, because as Missy says, and and even the Sexy has said, you bring on these strays, you bring on pets, and I think this is
Adric is definitely a stray.
Yes, and so he's brought them on. So I've liked them. I thought I could see, and I don't know the backstory of which companions are not liked and which ones are liked and such, but I just know that in this story, I thought Adric and the Doctor really worked well together. I thought Adric, carried his own, and once, like I said, once we get on the planet and the story's going, I thought it went really well.
Yeah, I agree.
And
he's obviously
fun banter.
Yeah. So Nyssa, who's introduced in this story, interestingly enough, she doesn't leave with the Doctor at the end of this story. So, but we obviously do see her again, and now Nyssa's story is a little more simpler, obviously. But she does have these scenes with Adric where the two of them are kind of working together. So you can already get a little taste of how these two would interact with each other as companions aboard the TARDIS. So I kind of want to get your initial thoughts about Nyssa in the story.
So I was not impressed with her.
Okay.
But I don't think they gave her much to do to be impressed. In other words,
I agree. I'll agree with that last part.
There are times when, especially in the modern era, we have had people that you go, wow, they'd be a great companion. Like the engineer that was on the Orient Express, a couple other people. She did not strike me one way or another. And then when I read after the fact, when I looked into...
Did you cheat and look ahead?
No. This is afterwards. I always watch the episode without going to Wikipedia and TARDISpedia, and then afterwards I go and look and see, what I'm doing, because I don't want to be cheated. I want to watch the episode as, with as a clean mind as possible. So afterwards I went, oh, okay, that's interesting. She becomes a companion. And as I already shared, I didn't realize, I knew the Master was on there because it's the Master Trilogy, but I did not know that this actor was going to take over the role. But I would not have, if I had not read Wikipedia, I would have been shocked if you had said, yeah, she later becomes a companion. Really? Wow. What did she do to get on that golden ticket to the TARDIS?
Well, obviously you'll find out more in our next story, Legopolis. Yes. So we'll cover that.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned for that.
Yes.
But all right, so let's move on to our third and final topic.
Mm-hmm.
Body Move In. We be Body Move In. And that's a Beastie Boys classic. But this is obviously a reference to the Master, who gets a new body at last. A new body at last.
So I love the fact that, when the Doctor gets taken behind the curtain, in the Master's secret
in the Master's TARDIS,
he immediately knows who he is. Of course it's the Master. And
well, the fact that everything's all black inside the Master's TARDIS is like, a black TARDIS. Yeah, I wonder who that would go well with.
And this is probably very childish of me, but I always love the fact that the Master's TARDIS can look like anything.
Right.
His chameleon certificate, chameleon circuit is working.
Actually, it's got a great story purpose in that. Now that you bring it up, because obviously, if the Master's TARDIS works, for one thing, it makes his TARDIS better than the Doctor's.
Yes.
And so that makes him more of a threat. And also means that because of the chameleon circuit, he could just turn up anywhere unexpectedly because, hey, anything could be the Master's TARDIS, theoretically.
And I love the theory, and it's one of my quotes about it being bigger than the inside than the outside.
Yeah.
They show that, because of the timey-wimey, Gallifreyan science, that anything from a long clock or just a pillar or a stone or something, it could be as little or as big as it wants outside with this circuit. And so I just think that's really interesting. I do not remember, am I supposed to know why the Master is burnt out and looking like, a beast from Beauty and the Beast or something?
No, we never actually got an explanation about why the Master in the second Master is a little extra crispy, shall we say.
Yes.
But, presumably he had met his end, at an early sort of end, at the hand of the Doctor at some point, or was experimenting with something.
Yes.
And then just everything went completely horribly wrong, and ended up making him a little extra crispy. But also we do get an explanation here that he's at the end of his 12th incarnation.
Yeah, so I need to step in.
I was just gonna say, obviously before they started figuring out, hey, we can work around this.
Right.
The Master is essentially at the end of his life cycle.
So I'm going to put in a little bit of real world in this, but bear with me if I have a little latitude, Doctor Who judge. So, as most of you guys know, I run a contact center in real life. And one of the things we do is we track attendance. And I tell my team, you should treat your unscheduled absences like gold. You do not, there's a difference between feeling bad and being sick. And you only get so many unscheduled absences before you start getting into verbal written, plans. And there's always agents that are frivolous with their unscheduled absences. And then there's other agents that are very smart.
When he's not battling the Doctor all day. And just that he encounters other alien creatures, and also, he's up to all these schemes that apparently go sideways and end up taking him out as a result. So it'd be kind of curious to find out, exactly what he's up to. But yeah, he does burn through his lies faster than the Doctor is.
And in the spirit of, because it is Jesse and Charles, remember in the Silver Age of comics, there is a planet where Lex Luthor is the hero.
Right.
And so I wonder if there's a planet where the Master is the hero and the Doctor is considered his nemesis and an evil person. That would make for a very interesting standalone, either a movie or a Big Finish audio.
I think you've just pitched a Doctor Who story. So
yeah, there we go.
There you go. So hopefully somebody's listening.
Yes.
Or hopefully they're not going to steal your idea.
Would be no problem. They're welcome to have it.
Exactly. So the Master here, he's at the end of his final incarnation, desperate to stay alive. Sees essentially the power of the Keeper as his ticket out, and at the end of the episode, he accumulates at least enough power, I think, that he's able to take over Tremas's body. And so we have that great cliffhanger scene, which is the cliffhanger that hooked me on Doctor Who, where Tremas places his hand on, he hears this humming coming from this grandfather clock, places his hand on the faceplate of the clock, and gets trapped there. Like a fly on flypaper. The second Master creeps out of the grandfather clock, which is just a great image. This horrible decaying figure climbing out of that clock. It's just one of these images that obviously hooked me on Doctor Who, and comes around and merges, takes over Tremas's body, essentially killing Tremas. So Miss Nyssa, without even realizing it, has lost her father. And he goes back into his TARDIS as the new third Master, Anthony Ainley's Master, and then dematerializes for parts unknown. Poor Nyssa, is just like, Dad, where are you?
Yeah.
And so you feel bad for Nyssa. Is like, oh, the Master just killed your father, stole his body, and disappeared, and you have no idea what the hell happened.
It was a great ending. It really was. I just thought that was really well done, and I could see how a young Charles would have been. Wait a minute, what the heck?
When you're like 14 or 15, and you're just like, wow, that was cool.
Yeah.
So I just I got to see what happens next. It was just because obviously I had no knowledge of regeneration at that point.
Right.
So I'm just like, well, that was unexpected.
Well, and the other thing is, and some of our younger listeners, and I'm going to sound like a grumpy old man, but I don't mean it, but in this time period, we were still very much one and done. I always joke about, on Bonanza, right? Little Joe falls someone, she's going to be dead by the end of the episode. And the following episode, no one will remember that he was in love with someone and they died. They reset after every episode. And to have a episode where it wasn't to be continued, it just was, it ended in a cliffhanger. And you're like, wait a minute, what's going to happen? This is actually, there is a consequences of this story
Right.
is something pretty amazing.
Right. And it obviously leaves unfinished business that you're like, okay, well, I want to know what happens next. And that's
Yes.
obviously how I felt.
Yes.
And so I have to imagine viewers seeing this at the time also wanted to know
Oh, I totally agree.
what happened. So yeah, I just thought that was great. And I felt bad for Nyssa.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll find out what happens to both of them next time.
Yes.
But anything else about this story you want to talk about before we move on?
No, I thought it was, like I said, once it got started, I really enjoyed it. I thought it dragged a little bit. I do find the 4 parts episode more enjoyable than the 6-part episodes.
Yeah, well, it's obviously a little more tighter pace, or tighter story. Yeah.
And I do
less filler.
Yeah, I do love the fact that they kind of repeat the final 2 minutes in the next episode, so it's good. But this was, I truly, one of the reasons I love that we do this, Charles, is not only do I get a chance to talk Doctor Who with you during the off season, but to see all the building stones of the modern era, and to enjoy the good and the bad. And so this is, Karen and Ken's favorite Doctor is the 4th Doctor. And I love going back and visiting that and seeing, just the way Baker played this. And you totally understand why he is beloved and why in many people's minds he set the standard.
Yeah, totally agree. The only other thing I want to mention about this story is that obviously, this is the first story to actually show the Master changing bodies on screen, and something we don't get to see again until Utopia.
Which, spoiler alert, may be brought up in Reverse the Polarity for many reasons.
I kind of wondered about that. So we'll get into that, obviously. So I won't spoil that.
Right.
But actually, we do see the Master changing bodies again in Doctor Who the movie, the 1996 Paul McGann story.
Yes.
But this was an actual regeneration, if you will, in Utopia.
Absolutely.
All right. So all right. You have best lines of the episode.
So there are several.
Okay.
One of them is good morning, afternoon, or is it evening? Go ahead.
Noticed that, have you? Well, I mean, anyone can talk sense. As long as that's understood, you and I are going to get along splendidly.
Yes, absolutely great.
Other lines.
Yeah, another line is the what can't be cured must be endured.
Right.
And Adric says, that's the silliest thing you've ever said. And the Doctor goes, yes, don't listen to me. I never do.
Yeah, that was a great one. One. I like the Doctor and Adric, another exchange where the Doctor's like, I thought so. Adric replies, I thought what? The Doctor says, I thought you might appreciate if I gave you the impression I knew what was happening. We could panic, of course, but where would that get us?
Yeah, the whole discussion of that is fine. And then Adric and Nyssa discussing the TARDIS.
Right.
Nyssa, but why is it so much bigger inside than it is outside? And Adric, the Doctor told me it was because it was dimensionally transcendental. Okay, but what does that mean? It means it's bigger inside than outside.
That's great.
Yeah, it was, yeah. They were very clever. Mr. Byrne, you did a good job. A lot of stuff.
Yeah, I agree. All right. I have one more quick line, and then I'll end it. So this is between the Keeper and the Doctor. And the Keeper says, how vain can one still be? I thought the whole universe knew the history of our little empire. The Doctor replies, yes. They say the atmosphere there was so full of goodness that evil just shriveled up and died. Maybe that's why I never went there.
I like it. I like it a lot. Good stuff.
Good. All right. So what's your rating on this one?
So I gave it 7.5 grandfather clocks.
Yes.
It was, and I think if you pushed me, I could give it up to 8.
Okay.
It
push. I'm pushing.
Okay. I'll give it 8 out of 10
Yay.
grandfather clocks. Yeah, this was good. There is a lot of there. Like I said, I thought it was a little slow starting, but once it got in there, I really enjoyed the story, and I also especially like Adric and the doctors. There's a lot of clever lines in this, and sometimes in the classic.
Let go ever since. So cheers to the Keeper of Traken. It's a sentimental favorite, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think it is, and I love the fact that we're setting up, a trilogy, which is important when we do Reverse the Polarity. There's another similarity with that.
Yeah, so hopefully you understand why I wanted to do the whole trilogy as opposed to just Tom Baker's final episode.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Did we have feedback this time, Charles?
We do have feedback. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to do it after we reverse the polarity?
We can certainly reverse the polarity first.
Okay, so I'll let you go because it sounds like you've got something in mind.
Yeah, I did. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is, since Charles normally, when we're doing the modern era, finds a classic episode, I'm trying to find a modern era when we're discussing classic, and Utopia just came out right away. It was the 11th episode of the 3rd series of the the reboot, so to speak, revised season. It came out in June 2007, written by Russell T Davies. And the reason why, not only is we get Jack Harkness and Martha, my favorite companion, and the Doctor. They go to the TARDIS takes them to 100 trillion, where a professor is working to send the last remnants of the human race to a place called Utopia.
Professor Yana.
Yes, and it is the first of 3 episodes, like this one.
Right. Excellent.
It reintroduces the Doctor's longtime nemesis, the Master, after a long gap, which also happened in this one. And we actually see the Master change. We get it is a great and it's a wonderful standalone episode. It doesn't necessarily, you can watch this by itself, though. Like me, you're gonna, you can't eat one potato chip. You're gonna want to watch the other 2. Right. But this is, I think, in a lot of ways. So
kind of like the Keeper of Traken in that sense, that you could just watch Keeper of Traken.
Yes.
Without watching the other 2, but it's obviously better if you do.
Yes. So that's why I would suggest this is the perfect, kind of yin and yang of a modern episode that it echoes this classic one in a lot of ways. Did I do good, Charles?
I think you did fantastic.
Thank you. Would that have been your pick too?
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I thought that was great. I was going to go with Doctor Who the movie, just for a couple of reasons. Mainly because you had the Doctor, or the Master, as this ooze taking over the body of the ambulance driver Bruce, which transforms him into a new body. So a new body at last, again. And then also later in the episode, where you have the Master taking control of Grace's body, causing her eyes to become inhuman, kind of like Cassia. But I definitely like Utopia as your pick. I think that's a great pick.
Very nice. Cool.
So that's awesome. All right. So we do have some feedback from our usual suspects, who are always welcome to write in. We have, let's see, the first person to write in was Holly from Wisconsin.
Yay, Holly.
Yay, Holly. So Holly writes in, hey guys, sad to hear the news that we lost Deborah Watling. Going to have to go back and watch The Web of Fear and Enemy of the World again. So yeah, on a side note, obviously the Doctor Who world lost one part of the classic era legacy with the passing of Deborah Watling, who played second Doctor companion Victoria Waterfield. and she was primarily in Patrick Troughton's second season, series 5, as the co-companion of Jamie McCrimmon, and it's obviously sad when we lose that a part of Doctor Who. Victoria isn't exactly one of the more major companions, but she is in the eyes of a lot of fans. So I want to give a shout out to that, to her era, and we're obviously very sad to learn of her passing here at Next Stop Everywhere.
Absolutely, and I appreciate Holly mentioning it and sharing her thoughts. We agree.
Yeah, I think that Web of Fear is a great story. If you want to go watch some stories featuring Victoria as a companion, and or I would also recommend Tomb of the Cybermen, and also The Seeds of Death, featuring the Ice Warriors. So yeah, I would definitely check those out.
Nice.
So highly recommended. So and the Ice Warriors, that would be great too. So yeah, go check out the Ice Warriors, the first story with the Ice Warriors. So Holly continues on a happier note. Wow, San Diego Comic-Con delivered some goodies. The trailer for Twice Upon a Time looks so good. So yeah, we got the trailer for Peter Capaldi's final story, Twice Upon a Time. We now know it.
Isn't that a great title, Charles?
It is. So what did you think of the trailer while we're talking about it?
I was just so ecstatic. It just looks amazing. I'm so glad we're going to get Bill one more time, though I'm sad that we're not going to get her on a future season. But yeah, the two doctors interacting together. I like Mark Gatiss as an actor. And so I think, and there's a little bit of mystery of who he is. And so that's always kind of, fun to have that spice.
My current theory, he's the Brigadier's father.
Ah, okay. I like it.
But we'll see. Because, well, he was, maybe, yeah, because with the timing, it would probably be his father.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. But, yeah, we'll see. So, yeah, one other thing I liked about that trailer was that we got a glimpse of the return of the first Doctor's companion, Polly Wright, played by a different actress. But so I thought that was interesting that we're actually going to get not just the first Doctor, we may get to see at least Polly as well, his companion.
Which would be very cool.
I want to know where Ben is, his other companion, who is also in the 10th planet. But so maybe we'll get Ben as well. But obviously, for right now, we don't know because he hasn't appeared in the trailer. But Polly did, so I thought that was rather cool.
Yeah, very cool. Absolutely.
And she's played by an actress that was in, I forget the actress's name, but she was in Kingsman: The Secret Service.
Oh, which was a fun movie.
Yeah. She plays like the young blonde agent that's kind of competing with one of them that's competing with Eggsy for the role.
Oh, nice.
So if you like Kingsman, the movie, go. Yeah, she's in that. So
Good.
check. So Holly continues. It's been a while since we've seen the Keeper of Traken, and the rewatch factor is still there. Good scenes between the Adric and the Doctor. We meet Nyssa for the first time. Never much cared for her stepmom, and still don't. That's okay. That's okay. And yes, Tremos equals master, as she points out that Tremos is an anagram of master, which I'm guessing you didn't catch.
I did not till after the fact. Someone had, once they mentioned it, and when I read her feedback, because I make a point of not reading the feedback until after I've seen the episode.
Right.
So yes, which goes back to your point about why the master would be in disguise,
right?
Because he likes disguises and he likes anagrams, and of course, in this case, it was the writer liking that. It was yeah,
exactly. They kind of wanted to toy a little bit with the audience.
Yes.
But they did go to steps to try to keep the master's identity secret, because they kept referring to Geoffrey Beevers was credited as Melker, not the master, in the story. So they did try to disguise that a little bit. I don't know if you're still there, Jesse.
I am, and yes, I am there,
okay,
and I agree. Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's good. Holly continues. That's why I was surprised this season finale with that Razor was actually the master. But then again, we were also lulled by Professor Yana and Saxon. So
yes.
Looking forward to watching the rest of this trilogy. Holly from Wisconsin. So thanks, Holly, for writing in.
Yes, thank you very much, Holly. I appreciate it. That's great feedback, and we appreciate your loyalty and consistency.
Yeah. So we also got some feedback from Paul from Australia.
Nice.
So Paul writes in, "Hi, Charles and Jesse. First of all, just wanted to say how much I'm looking forward to new Dr. Jodie Whittaker, as are we." So
yes, amen.
I have heard all the backlash over the casting, and I think people need to calm down and have a bit of faith in the showrunners, as they really haven't let us down yet.
Totally agree.
Totally agree, Paul. So you're totally on the money right with that. Just everybody relax.
It's going to be
cool.
okay.
It's going to be okay. Just relax.
So, by the way, Charles, on a side note, Bruce Springsteen, Take a Drink, my Set Listing Bruce episode, we do every once in a while a series of dedications, and I dedicated Sam Cooke's A Change Is Gonna Come to all Doctor Who fans, saying
Very
you
nice.
just embrace that, right? So
you can't go wrong with Sam Cooke, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
All right. So Paul continues, I was born in '63, so I'm old school with Doctor Who and don't care that I don't care who they cast, as long as it serves the story to come and we enjoy them.
Well said.
I think the casting of Jodie will be very interesting and will give us lots to discuss in the future. So so Paul's an old school fan apparently that is down with the casting. So just like us. So
that's great news.
It's obviously not a generational thing.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So Paul continues, now as for the Keeper of Traken, I love this story, mainly for the fact that we get to see the rebirth of the Master into an incarnation that will go on to trouble the Doctor on and off right up to Survival, the final Doctor Who story of the classic era. I love the fact that the Master schemes never really pay off the way he wants, but he always survives and escapes to yet again come up with another convoluted plan. Just brilliant. As was Geoffrey Beevers and Anthony Ainley. I truly believe that every actor cast as the Master has been perfect for that generation. The main thing I learned from the Keeper of Traken is not to stand lingering near a grandfather clock. It could end really badly for you.
Absolutely.
Kindest regards always, Paul.
Yay. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. So, grandfather clocks become just a bit more creepy after watching this story. Totally agree.
Yes, they do.
All right. And it's actually my favorite incarnation of the Master's TARDIS, by the way, the grandfather clock.
Oh, I could see that.
Yeah, he's has like a Roman column and stuff, but I'm more partial to the grandfather clock. I think it's a cool look for his TARDIS. So that about does it for our feedback.
Okay.
And next time on Next Stop Everywhere, obviously we're going to talk about Logopolis, the second part of the Master Trilogy. So this is Tom Baker's final story, and I'm asking you, Jesse, right now, maybe we should have a couple of people join us for this story, if possible.
Oh, I would love that. I think that would be just awesome.
We have to shift from our usual recording time, but I think it might be worth it if we, say, brought in, Ken or Karen or both.
Yes, I think that would be great.
I think that would be great to let them join in for Tom Baker's final story, if they're interested.
Absolutely. I will we'll talk to both of them, but I'm sure they're going to be. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, so maybe we need to send out an email and try and coordinate this a little bit.
Absolutely, I agree.
All right. So we're going to talk about that here in a couple weeks, so please come on back. And for Logopolis, it's a big one. Obviously, Tom Baker's final story. So it's the end, but the moment has been prepared for.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. And, once again, I love the theme that we're going through as we're making this, as the late, great Sam Cooke said, a change is going to come. So we're covering this. And it's always a little bit nervous when we're changing doctors. So Charles and I are here, with you. We're going through this. We're going to go through all the times this has happened in the past, and each time it changes.
Hopefully you'll get used to it,
right.
So that by the time it happens with Peter Capaldi, it won't be nearly as traumatic.
Mm-hmm. So if I have just a couple of minutes, Charles, I hope some of our listeners are going to join me at Dragon Con coming up this Labor Day weekend. I have been asked to.
Where's my ticket? I'll join you.
Yeah.
Give me a ticket.
I am not on any Doctor Who panels, but I am on Friday afternoon. I'm on a Sherlock Holmes panel.
Very cool.
Friday night, I'm doing a Walking Dead fan panel.
Excellent.
Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock, I'm doing Into the Badlands.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then 8:30 at night, a Neil Gaiman fan panel. So we'll sure talk a little Doctor Who there.
You could be very busy.
Yeah, and then 10 a.m. Sunday, I'm doing a Colony fan panel, and then 7 to 8 o'clock on Sunday, they asked me to be on the Class panel.
and you've never watched an episode.
No, I've seen them all. I've watched all of Class.
I did watch it. Okay.
I watched them all, though I am not in love with it. So I'm going to be the cranky guy on the panel going, don't like. I'm going to be the old guys on the Muppet Show that are in the balcony.
Are you Statler or Waldorf?
I'm not sure. So anyway.
You kind of strike me as a Waldorf.
Yeah, if any of you listeners are going to be at Dragon Con, please check it out. Look me up, and if we we'll do a quick recording on our hopes for Jodie. So just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously Paul's enthused by the casting, as are a lot of people. So looking forward to that. So if you want to be like Paul and Holly, you can reach us at Next Stop Everywhere SMG@gmail.com, and we'll be happy to read your comments right here at Next Stop Everywhere. Or you can reach us at Next Stop SMG on the Twitter machine, or you can reach us on our Facebook page, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. We haven't had any likes on the podcast for a while, so if you haven't already liked us on Facebook, please do so. And then if you would, please go on iTunes and rate us and subscribe to us if you're not already, because that helps people find us.
Absolutely.
And Jesse, where can they reach you?
I can be reached at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. I am on Jesse Jackson on Facebook. You can hear me talk about Bruce Springsteen and music at Set Listing Bruce. And I would love to have people discuss that. And, we always appreciate, people sending us feedback and thoughts. And, one of the wonderful things of, on Twitter is the people sharing us their thoughts and people different sending us, their quotes and thoughts. So please keep that going because we love it.
I totally agree. So yes, please keep that happening because that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So as for me, I'm at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, at Charles Skaggs on the Instagram, Facebook of course at Charles Skaggs, Google Plus for all you crazy kids in the Google Plus, and of course my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about Doctor Who and Next Stop Everywhere, and my other two podcasts that I do for Southgate Media. The Phantom Zone podcast that I do with Karen Lindsay, who we just talked about, and Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, where we're covering the Showtime revival of Twin Peaks, and it's getting really good. So if you're not already listening to Ghostwood, please check that out as well, because that would be awesome sauce.
Absolutely. You guys are doing a great job of covering this really interesting return. And so I really have enjoyed hearing y'all's thoughts on it. I'm a couple episodes behind, but I'm loving it. And that's the beauty of the internet. It's there so that when you do get to it, you can go and listen.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. But so thanks, Jesse. I wasn't aware that you were actually listening. So
I am, and I'm liking it.
Well, thank you. Very much. Very appreciate the kind thoughts.
Yeah.
And obviously go check out Jesse's other podcasts as well, Set Listing Bruce and many more. So
exactly.
You have your Game of Thrones podcast, I believe.
We do. In fact, what's kind of interesting is for the first time we have a conflict this week, so we're going to record 15 minutes after the episode ends tonight. So it's going to be
zero preparation.
Yeah, zero preparation, no rewatching, just watching the episode, and so I'm kind of actually looking forward to that kind of,
live.
Just first impression, just live doing
Game of Thrones recap live.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
All right, so that's
cool.
Great. All right, so please check those out as well. So next time, Logopolis, the final Tom Baker story. Come on back because it's going to be a good one. So come back for episode 92, everybody, and we'll see you right in here on Next Stop Everywhere, the
Absolutely.
Doctor Who podcast.
And I have a closing comment. Yes, I do.
Yeah, let's do that.
Which is very appropriate with the computer problems we're having.
Yes.
The trouble with computers, of course, is that they're very sophisticated idiots. They do exactly what you tell them at amazing speed, even if you order them to kill you. So if you do happen to change your mind, it's very difficult to stop them from obeying the original order, but not impossible.
Very cool. Where's that from?
That is actually from the Fourth Doctor, and it is Robot.
His first story.
Yes, and so I thought it was very appropriate with our computer troubles to have that.
Yeah, Skype. Shakes fist.
Yeah, indeed.
All right, so come on back. Episode 92, Logopolis. We'll see you next time in the TARDIS, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye.